Welcome to the Athletes Playbook with Press Upload, the podcast where pro athletes break down how they've built their brand, owned their story, and use social media to shape their careers on and off the field. From early challenges to viral moments to life after sport, the real playbook behind the posts. Let's get started.
Hi, so today we're joined by a very special guest, Eloise Hayward. She grew up playing rugby in Oman, Dubai, and Indonesia before returning to the UK and making her mark across multiple formats of the game. She's played rugby union with teams such as Saracens and Sale Sharks, rugby league for Leeds Rhinos, and most recently represented GB Sevens, where she's fresh off winning the European Championship in Hamburg. So, Eloise, welcome. European champion. How does that feel?
Yeah, pretty cool. I think, firstly, thank you for having me. And yeah, I don't think it gets old. I think the smile that comes with it when you said European champion, I was like, yeah, that's pretty good. That's a pretty good feeling. And it's something that, like, it's going to sound so cliche, but you kind of go to these tournaments and you go to win. But then when you do win, you're still as surprised. You're like, whoa, picking up this trophy, we were like, oh my God. Like, the feeling was just, I think, amazing, especially after, like, the turbulent year we've sort of had on the series. It was just a nice way to top it off. So, yeah.
And so we saw the scenes of the kind of the after party on your Instagram. How did it feel for the team? Was it a seriously good time afterwards?
Yeah, seriously good time. The roguest after party I've ever been to before, and that is after having a rugby career of years. Like, that's a big thing to say, that it is the roguest after party. It was just some, like, clubhouse that I've not, like, entered at all the whole tournament, and they were like, yeah, girls, if you could just go through there, free beer, and we're thinking, yeah, cool, like, whatever. Literally walk through this corridor, and next thing you know, it's like this basketball court with, like, a stage, DJ set, lights, this bar. I mean, the free beer was true, so I was buzzing, but yeah, we were just there, like, boots, socks. My kit was still wet. I'm pretty sure I still had my GPS in, like, trying to be like, don't lose your gum shield, don't lose your medal, like, jumping around this basketball court. Like, yeah, it was class. It was good.
And was that all the teams out there, or was it just a few of them made it out?
No, yeah, every team. So every team was out, men's and women's. So our boys came and watched our final. They got knocked out of the tournament earlier on in the day, so they had shower, freshened up. They all came, watched our tournament, which was so lovely. And then obviously they came for the after party. But yeah, all men's and women's teams were there. So it was cool to, like, mingle with the other teams as well and sort of talk to them. Obviously quite a few language barriers, but yeah, it was really cool. Dancing away with the Swedish, and yeah, it was just really cool.
And I kind of imagine that was always the dream, winning the European from however long you've been playing rugby, since day one, getting to this kind of stage and winning these kind of medals. That's what you play for, really, isn't it? Is that kind of something you always envisaged yourself doing?
Yeah, I think you always kind of go, I want to win, this amount of trophies. I want to win this accolade. I want to win, I want to finish my career as a winner of this, a winner of that. And it's kind of something that does definitely sit in the back of your head, and something that does drive you. And then I think for years I was like, yeah, I'm going to win all these things and win all this. And then I think it wasn't until a couple of years ago I was like, I think I'm just going to enjoy it. Like, I'm just going to enjoy the process. I'm just going to enjoy, the training, the tournaments, etc. But yeah, I'd be lying if I said, there wasn't the whole goal was to come away with quite a few titles.
And did you sort of, again, talking about when you're first getting into it, did you always see yourself going pro, or did you just start and for the love of the game, just keep going? I saw that you've got a lot of family who've already been pretty high up in athletics and or rather in sport already. Was that always the dream, or did you just play it out?
I actually didn't know it was possible growing up. So, like, I was a massive football fan. I was huge, loved it, always played football, always played rugby, always knew, like, watching the Olympic Games, well, I want to be an Olympian, I want to go to this, I want to be this. If I could see it, I kind of wanted to be it. But I never knew, like, that was possible. And I think that's naivety. When you're younger, you see, people playing for Chelsea and Arsenal, etc. These male players, and grew up watching, Frank Lampard and thinking, oh, he's so cool. But I never thought, oh, he's a professional footballer. I just thought, oh, he's a footballer. And I always had this weird dream. My dad always laughs at me for it, but I used to say to him, no, I'm going to play for England when I grow up. And he was like, yeah, the women's team. And I was like, what? No, I'm could be playing with like Frank Lampard and David Beckham and all that. Like I'm going to be the first woman to play on that team, because I just didn't know it was a thing that there was a men and women's team. I just thought no woman had ever made it yet, which honestly sounds stupid when I sort of say it out loud like that. But it wasn't really the goal until I was probably about 16, and then I saw that that was actually a thing, and that was possible. And then as soon as I knew it was possible, I was like, yeah, that's what I want to do. That's who I want to be, and kind of just tailored my whole life around that, like giving myself the best opportunity to get there.
And what was that moment? What was that moment where you went, okay, here we go. I'm good. I am good at rugby, and this is what I want to go for.
Yeah,
and this is possible.
If I can go back that far, probably when we had people coming to school, right? And we had Catherine Skiver-Brunt, so the England cricketer. She came into school. She did a cricket session with us, and I was like, oh, I'm pretty all right at this. And she was like, yeah, you should be a cricketer, like Yorkshire cricket, England cricket, all this. And I was like, oh, I play rugby, I play football, like, nah. And then I did a bit of like a 9 coaching session with Fee Davison, who was the England scrum half at the time. And that was so cool, having like a one-to-one session with her, like at my rugby club. And she was sort of talking to me about her career and stuff. And I was thinking, I want to do that. Like, I want to do that. And it literally was later on that year, I got selected for the England under-18s to go away to France and play in a sevens tournament. And I literally had that first taste of that tournament. I was like, this is it. This is the life I want. This is the career. So yeah, I literally came home and that was it. I was like, I'm gunning for it.
And sorry to bounce back a little bit. You say, obviously, you loved football, you loved athletics.
Yeah.
If it wasn't rugby, what do you think it would have been?
Yeah, so classic football. If you'd asked me now, right, if you'd have said to me when I was younger, right, rugby's not a sport, it doesn't exist, what are you going to do? I'd have been like, I should be a footballer, obviously. If you'd asked me now, I'd probably say boxing.
Yeah.
Like, love it. Yeah, love it.
Yes.
Boxing. Will's going to love that. He's a big
Very
boxer
good.
over there.
Yeah, boxing, definitely.
Yeah, good. It's a bit like what we were saying before with the before we started recording, just about sort of that love of the contact, that love of just adrenaline. The same thing with sevens being, I played just a tiny bit in school, but sevens as well just got that same kind of, just like you're exhausted, there's so much continual things happening, that I didn't get that from football. That's so funny that you say that. Would you ever like sort of consider doing other stuff as part of like cross traiing?
Yeah,
do you sort of ever do other
probably
sports?
Like the girl who doesn't sit still, to be honest with you. So this season I actually started boxing back in January time. Just started going for a bit of fitness. We'd done it quite a few times at training, and I thought, do you know what, this is quite a good stress relief. I'm finding it's helping my like contact conditioning, so like my ability to just kind of keep going in the fight of like tackling and in sevens, like you said, that kind of repeat ability. And now we're in August and they're like, do you know what, you could probably fight in a month if you want to. And I'm like, kind of got myself in a bit deep here, but why not? So I've got involved in boxing. Like everyone else on the planet, I've started getting involved in high rocks, and gonna have some form of quarter life crisis, but one of my friends has completed an Ironman recently, and I was like, she was sat talking to me, and I thought, do you know what? I might do a half Ironman. And I think my mum and dad are sick of me coming down to breakfast in the morning with some new idea. I'm like, do you know what? I think I'm going to do this. And they're like, all right, go for it, girl.
Yeah. But they all tie into each other, don't they? Because like boxing, it's one of those sports where not only you're physically on it, you're mentally involved, and when you're attacking, you're also defending, and there's just so much going on. And you, as you say, that must really go over into your rugby as well, and high rocks. And then if you want to do an Ironman, if you can get punched in the face while being pretty out of breath, what's a couple kilometers in the water? Right?
Exactly that. I'm like, do you know what? What's a marathon and the Tour de France and a couple of kilometers? What's it? What is that?
Might be a little naive, but I'm sure we know what we're talking about.
The problem is, as well, you just keep hearing about these more and more like bigger things. Like I remember beforehand, like it's even in the last few years, things like running that's got sort of way big, a lot with, just it's sort of the online presence of these kind of athlete influence and everything. It just expands the scope of it. So beforehand, everyone talked about a half marathon, and you go, oh, that's a big distance. And now you see 1 billion people on Instagram doing it on like a weekend as a training run for their like 5,000-mile backwards walk across a desert somewhere. And yeah, it's just amazing how things have, even just in like the 5-10 years that I've been sort of looking into these things, have changed. When we're talking about motivation for doing the sport, is it consistently aiming to get those sort of bigger and better, faster or more adrenaline, or is it aiming to get more accolades? Is it aiming just to try new things? What's kind of the underlying motivation?
I've always been someone, and it probably hasn't hit me until a couple of weeks ago when I was having this conversation with my dad, that achievements have always seemed like a sort of like a checklist to me, like a tick off. And when I kind of achieved them, I didn't always feel a sense of pride. It was more like a relief that I hadn't failed, which I know sounds so backwards, but it was sometimes like I'd achieve something and it'd be like, okay, cool, I set that goal and, I got it. Thank God I didn't mess up, I didn't fail. And it's such a backwards way of looking at it, because now I look back and go, you've won Challenge Cup finals, you've won premierships, you've European champion, like you've done some cool things. And at the time I was going, thank God I did it. Whereas now I look back and I go, I'm so proud I've done it. Like, and I'm so proud I've achieved it. So yeah, it's probably going forward is achieving sort of, is obviously going to try and achieve more accolades, but be proud whilst I'm doing it and sort of enjoying that process of doing it. Sort of trying to enjoy that training journey or whatever it is that sort of gets me to that accolade. And then once I sort of get to the top of that mountain and achieve it and be like buzzing, I'm proud of me, instead of being like, oh, thank God I didn't fail, It's kind of switching that mindset.
Yeah. There's a lot of a space in that kind of area of, you've got the two flip sides of, you hear lots of people saying, you've got to always be pushing on, because you don't want to get to the top of that mountain and then stop and then go, well, that was amazing, that was the best point in my life, and then kind of just regress from back there. But at the same time, if you don't, as you say, stop and appreciate it, then mentally as well as physically, you're not actually going to improve that far, because you've not actually taken the time to be like, okay, I'm amazing, I've just come back, I've won this medal, even just the fact that you said earlier, I just had a idea when I was just a child to go out to and say, oh, I'm going to be there. And now you're not in football, but you're in something just as impressive, of doing exactly what you said you were going to do. That's, like a huge step. And if you don't take time to appreciate it, then you're really missing out on something.
Yeah, definitely.
It's a really good point.
And obviously you've kind of just got back from the Euros and you had such great success there, and you say you're trying to change that mindset. Did you ever have a moment when you were on that pitch and you kind of just look back and you thought of, that 16-year-old girl that just wanted to play rugby or football? And did you ever just think, I've done something here amazing? And did you ever just have that flow state moment where you're like,
I think
this is a dream
I've sort
come
of had
true?
that sort of pinch me moment a few times in my career. Definitely playing at Wembley, that was massive. I think, Wembley is like the pinnacle of so many sporting events growing up. You kind of say that's FA Cup finals, that's kind of World Cup finals. That's, it's the stadium. And we got an orientation tour the day before we played there. And walking around it, I was honestly like a kid in a sweet shop. Like, I was just eyes wide open this whole time. And there's little details you just don't notice as a fan. So before you enter the pitch, there's a sign across the grass, and it says this is where players enter and legends leave. And there's just little things that you just notice around the stadium. You think, this is immense. So yeah, definitely that. And as we got to walk out the tunnel, loads of the girls were ahead of me. And, everyone started shouting my name backwards towards me. And I was thinking, oh God, what have I done? And they all just stood there pointing at this thing. And because it was a double header with the men, the tunnel was obviously split into, that was the Leeds side, that was the St Helens side. And then I think for the men, that was KR. We had Lee Leopards. And on that half of the tunnel was I can't even tell you, a 12-foot poster of myself. And I was like, ooh, she looks familiar. And I just stood next to this 12-foot poster of myself in the tunnel of Wembley the day before we're playing in the Challenge Cup final. And I think for me, I was like, cool. If 16-year-old me could see me now, she'd think I was cool. Like, it was kind of one of those moments that was like, yeah, like younger me would think I'm cool. So I was, very happy with sort of that. And it happened again, like I said, in the Euros. I kicked the ball out. I was staring at the clock and I literally saw it go blank. I was like, right, that's it. Game done. Kick this ball out. I think I stood there for a minute just staring at where I kicked this ball and was like, we've done it. It kind of just washed over me. It was like, we've done it. Like, wow, okay. And then obviously we started celebrating. You kind of, everything goes and you just get into celebrating mode. But yeah, that does happen quite often.
And did Wembley, did it feel as big as it looks?
Yeah, I think it was better.
Was it as amazing?
It was immense.
You imagine?
Like, it was something that, I'll hold on for the rest of my life. That's a story to tell the grandkids. You know, that's probably one of the biggest achievements I've ever achieved. And again, in the moment, probably didn't really think too much of it until kind of months down the line, where I was going, oh no, we actually did that. Yeah. Like, that actually happened. That's actually pretty cool. So it was probably very cool.
And talking of stories to tell the grandkids, how did you sort of decide or just make the choice to then go, right, I want to now not just have the same sort of personal journey, but I want to share it with the world, I want to have it over your social media? Was there a moment where you, again, like a specific moment that you went, oh, there's something I want to try, or did you just slip into it?
I thought that I've got a bit of a voice, like I'm a chatterbox, like you can't shut me up once I get yapping normally. So I thought, why not use it for good? So at first, only started off as kind of the old, a couple of videos here and there about like mental health and sport, which is something I'm massively sort of passionate about, and something that, you know, I will shout from the rooftops about, because it is so stigmatized within sport. I mean, it's stigmatized within society in general, but I think in sport it's definitely sort of hushed a lot more. And I'm unsure why. I think people think it will stop them being selected for things, or it will stop them being, you know, recontracted, etc., etc. So it sort of started off like that, just sort of using my voice and saying, you know, kind of raise awareness towards mental health. And then I thought, I was kind of explaining to some of my friends one day who, you know, they don't play sport at all, and I was explaining my day-to-day life, or I was explaining about something that happened in camp, and they were like, what, that's what you do on a daily basis? And I was like, yeah, like that's what my day-to-day looks like. And they were like, God, that's so cool, that's so interesting. And I was thinking, that's so mundane to me. Like, that is so boring. Like, I'd rather hear about, you know, what have you done in the office today, sort of thing. And they were like, yeah, that's so cool, so interesting. So that's when I kind of went, oh. And as a joke, like, I only just started like sending them like little jokey vlogs on like Snapchat and stuff, being like, welcome to Day in the Life, guys, this is what we're doing. And we'd all laugh about it. And one of them was like, God, you should be a YouTuber, all this. And I was like, oh, you know, like, behave. And then I thought, okay, like, maybe I can make some reels out of this though. And that's literally just where sort of Day in the Life came from. So started showing what like our 7 Day in the Lives look like. And then sort of was like, well, yeah, let's take you on tour. Like, we go to some of the coolest countries in the world. Like, we have this amazing opportunity in all these cool countries, these sick adventures. Why don't we share it with the world and show them what we get up to? And kind of show, I think, at the same time, the human behind the athlete. So it's like, yeah, you know, cool, you see us on the pitch scoring these tries and, you know, having these big moments and things, but what happens behind closed doors? Well, you know, we spend our life winding so-and-so up, and we hid her boots and we did this, and, you know, that's what's happened before we've got to this moment. So yeah, I was just kind of like, do you know what? I want to share that story with the world.
And has that come easy to you? Like, has I can imagine it. You say it is everyone's dreams, kind of like live that life, and seeing how you're doing it is amazing. And as you say, people want to know how you're going to training and where you're going, and, you know, everything that's going on behind the doors and the changing rooms. And have you found that it's quite easy? You get the support of your teammates. Is that something that people are just like, yeah, let's get involved? Like, this is fun.
It's harder than it looks. Like, I see all these influencers on Instagram all the time. Like, yeah, Fionn Morgan's class at it doing her day in the lives. I quite like, your other influencers. Like, there's a boy called James Warnock, and I think he's class at what he does. And I think, I've watched their reels, and I think, I could do that. And then I get to training, and I'm like, oh, I've not press record once. Or, like, you just forget about it because I just start getting on with my day. Or, like, sometimes you feel a bit awkward being like, I'm just going to put my phone here. No one, pretend it's not there. Just don't look at it. Like, it is a bit hard sometimes because you start going, oh, I'm cringing myself out here. But then it's cringy until it's not. Like, and that is the best way to look at it. But definitely, yeah, posting things sometimes. I'll still post something and I'll, like, schedule it. So then I'm not on my phone when it happens. And I will leave my phone in another room. And I'll go watch TV with my mum and dad, or I'll go running or something. Like, I still get anxious about posting because I don't know what it is, but sometimes I just get nervous that, well, what are people going to think, or what they're going to say? And most of the time, no one says anything horrible. Like, no one has actually ever said anything horrible under any of these reels. But it must be human nature. You just kind of go, oh, I'm anxious. So I just go, post, throw the phone. So yeah, it's quite hard, but it's throwing myself out of my comfort zone, which is something I always preach. So I was like, well, may as well start practicing it.
And how do you find those boundaries between kind of like authenticity, but also just, having your own life and being online while just having a moment to be private and enjoy yourself with your friends and your family, and when you go on a run, not having to film it from the rooftops like a proper influencer. How have you found that kind of finding those? It's
been, I think I've always been quite good at it because I've never really been someone who's like wants to share my whole life on Instagram and everything. I'm always actually quite rubbish at it in the sense of like stories and posting, etc. And it's actually something I need to get actively better at. I'm quite better at being like, enjoying a meal with people and being like, oh, this is lovely, and then kind of walking away being like, oh, I didn't get a single picture with my mates. Like, I think that's probably the way of maybe I'd be failing as an influencer, because I've probably gone to a whole meal and not took a picture of your food or your friends once. So I'm quite good with that way, probably too much so. I probably need to be better at showing more. But I guess when it comes to those sort of boundaries, it's learning what's right. Like, I think I recently posted something and it was quite vulnerable for myself online. And I was like, we're really flirting with the lines of vulnerability here. And that's something I'm starting to sort of learn, like, the more vulnerable you are, obviously, the more people kind of relate and they can open up and sort of agree with you and find that relatable. But then it's also that personal side of being like, that was vulnerable, that was a lot, and that was heavy. So yeah, I think there's flirting with that line as well.
And I guess it's just a case of sort of seeing how far you want to share, because the whole point of this building a space, building a personal brand as an athlete, is so that people who are already connected to you from seeing you on TV, from following you in papers and all that kind of stuff, can see sort of more sides to you, and having that authenticity to actually give something to them that they can relate to, because very, very few people can relate to playing in Wembley Stadium, but everyone can relate to the fact that someone who is, or even if you're communicating with younger audiences who are looking up to you and wanting to be in your position in a few years, it's really powerful to be able to then show how you are already related to them, that you're not like this big separate figure on the TV. But do you find that it's just kind of going sort of out naturally? Did you have to stop and think, where do I want my content to go?
At first it was kind of like really random, and if you literally scroll through my profile, you can be like, what in the direction is this girl going? Like, what in the niche is this? Because I was just like, oh, this is cool, and just filmed it and then posted it. I think like there's literally a reel on there about building a panel wall for my mum, like Do you know what I mean? And then I think the next reel after that is talking about my dissertation and my research paper that was published. And you're thinking, building a panel wall and a research paper have nothing in common, Eloise. Like, what in the audience are you trying? Like, what are you trying to do here? So I think I have sort of sat down and gone, no, like, stop randomly posting stuff and start actually sort of going after a certain direction or a certain audience as such. So like you said, sort of trying to talk to the younger generation of people of athletes, sort of that younger generation, because I genuinely believe if you can't see it, you can't be it. And like I said earlier, I didn't know that there was a women's team. I didn't know that that was an opportunity because I couldn't see it. Therefore, I couldn't be it. I mean, I knew I wanted to be an athlete, but I didn't know that was the option for me. So I sort of, pushed myself down to, not push myself down, but like kind of found my sort of pillars of things that I'm passionate about and want to go after. So like I said, mental health and talking about that athlete life. And it wasn't until recently that, you come across these content creators like your Anna Archers and, these sort of runners and people like that. I love to find a way to bring those sort of like fitness influencers and athletes and sort of how can we merge those communities, because I think they speak to an audience of your average person who likes fitness and running. How could we get like a Anna Archer and myself in the same room, and I bet we could have an unreal community, because we could have a class talk about her journey and my journey and how they probably are quite paralleled. It's just I've played a sport at this level, but then she's created an amazing community at this level. So that would be definitely a direction I'd sort of love to go in.
And for all those those kids that will be looking up to you and that will be looking at your like experience with rugby and think, I want to do that. When they go onto your Instagram page, when they look at you as a person,
that's actually
what kind of digital identity
I'd love them to sort of see that,
for them to see
that sort of like positive role model. That's someone who never gave up. Like, I've had so many setbacks within my career, injuries, non-selections, tough times, like really tough times. And it's required a lot of resilience. And I think, I'd just love to provide that ability that if you literally keep going, kind of don't ignore the setbacks, but learn from them. Like, learn every single lesson that comes from them. You can achieve it. You've just got to keep hammering that nail. Like, you've just got to keep going. So definitely someone like that, but someone who they can sort of relate to and go, yeah, I felt that struggle, oh, okay, well, she's done that, she's achieved that, why not me? I kind of want them to feel like they can go, why not me? Because like literally my whole career, it was, you're too small, you're too this, you're too that, and it's going, well, actually I've now achieved X, Y, and Z, so the boxes that you tried to put me in clearly didn't work.
It's hard to sort
that is quite the answer.
Yeah, I was going to say it's hard to ask more questions, sort of just firing them off one at a time when you've got such like profound, like it clearly means so much. And I think that's why it's so important to have this space. The whole press upload vision is that athletes already have an area where people want to follow them. So why not just monetize it? Why not make your personal brand something that other people who already want to relate to you can? And exactly for that, that's what kind of really real struggles and real side of you. It's just really, really amazing to see, like, it just in all aspects. And I think when looking at your content, we can really see that, just because the way you speak in your reels and also just the overall presentation, it is just you, like, it's really nice seeing just you having fun with your mates on the coach on the way to like a game and things like that. I think having that individuality and not necessarily following just a set type of, I have to post exactly this type of content is really nice to see. Yeah.
All right. Well, it wouldn't be the first episode of a new podcast without a technical difficulty. So welcome back, Eloise and William. We're going to give this another go. So we're going to start off back where we left off, which was, Eloise, can you please tell us a little bit more about what you plan to do going forward, once you start reaching the end of your career?
Yeah, my 5-10 year plan. So like I said, I'm not a pessimist. Like I'm not a morbid person, but I think I've always had in the sort of like that rear view of what happens if you don't get another contract. What happens if you get a career-ending injury? You kind of always got to forward think, and like it wasn't until recently that I thought social media is quite a good shout. Like I can yap, I can talk. I do enjoy making reels and making the videos and capturing the moments and capturing things, because sometimes you're filming and you're thinking, well, what are you filming for? And then I look back and I go, oh, that was such a cool memory, like, do I remember that? And you add it into a reel. So I think for me, I've seen all these sort of influencers, these sort of Love Island wannabes, which I thought, wow, it's definitely not a space I want to be in, or or anything like that. And it wasn't until I came across sort of the fitness like influencers, your Anna Archers, your James Warnock, people like that I thought, these are people that I'd love to be friends with, and B, I sort of resonate with. And I sort of, delve deeper into their socials and things. And I thought, that's such a cool life. They literally get to be so athletic and work with these brands like your Gymsharks, your Nikes, your Pure Sports, etc., your Red Bulls. And they're going on such cool opportunities that I was like, it'd be cool if we could get, that fitness influencer, ex-athlete sort of collab, and sort of, link up with them and their community in that space, and see what maybe athletes can bring into their space, and the same what they can bring into our space, and just show that you don't have to be an elite performing athlete to also be into fitness. You can just be an everyday person who's really into fitness. So I think that would bring two markets, two audiences together at the same time. So yeah, definitely sort of try to maybe push into that space. So if you see me doing any form of fitness influencing, just like it and keep scrolling. Like it, keep scrolling. Because I think I could sit here and tell you, this is the road I want to go down, but then I see the opportunities they get, and I could then be like, oh, actually, I'm going this way. But yeah, definitely would probably like to push into that space.
Yeah, while we were cut off in the meantime, we were talking about what we sort of individually liked about seeing athletes and their content. And for me, I just really like seeing like all types of different training, all types of like literally just what their kind of fitness is, because it's really cool seeing people who have achieved this like really high level, how they got there, but also it's just something quite satisfying about like seeing an exercise, being like, oh, I've never thought about that. That's great. Let me try and incorporate that into my next workout. And in terms of brands, have you had a thought about any sort of sector that you'd like to collaborate with, or is there any particular brand that stands out, something you think you'd be interested in working with?
No, I just quite like, obviously I live my life in sports kit, so obviously your brands that sort of combine that sort of fashion with gym wear stuff is class. Like your Gymsharks, your Able, your Adenola, like people like that I think are class. I sort of like that element of, have I just left the gym or am I going for a coffee, or both? So yeah, sort of that sort of sector is definitely something that I'd like to work in, for sure.
All right, absolutely. Well, I'll keep sending those messages, keep trying to get some for you. And as we wrap up the podcast, we're going to ask the same question to everyone. What is one play from your life, so it's a lesson, a move, a mindset shift, that you think every young athlete should hear and learn from?
There is more than one route to the top of the mountain. I think that's a quote that stuck with me for a while. I remember being down a bit of a rabbit hole and a bit of a frenzy about not being selected for something once, and thinking that was it, that was the end of my career. And I kind of spiraled and was like, I'm never going to make it to the top. I'm never going to achieve what I want to achieve and what I set out to do, because my step-by-step plan is failed. And I literally had a coach tell me that there was more than one route to the top of the mountain. And I remember being like, no, like I can only, get there this way. Well, still got there, and I wasn't selected for that one thing. So just because a setback comes in, or a roadblock or whatever, there's still a way around it. There's still another route. So yeah, definitely.
Amazing. Thank you very much. It's been inspiring and a pleasure chatting to you, and best of luck going forward. I look forward to seeing what else you've got up your sleeve for the next couple of years.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.